Saturday at 7 Eastern, a lot of eyeballs will be fixated on number 7, BYU, and number 3, UConn. You got freshman A.J. Devonsa playing like a top pick up against Solo Ball and Terrace Reed. UConn, 9-2 in their last 11 games versus top 10 teams. Just the opposite for the Cougars. With that, we bring in 24/7 Sports Director of Scouting, Adam Finkelstein. And Adam, I don't know what A.J.'s parents fed him growing up, but he hoops on the court like a grown man and is built like one. How do you think this freshman star is going to handle his first meaningful box office showdown?
Yeah, well, he's coming back home, right? I mean, don't tell him he's from Boston. He'll correct you and say he's from Brockton, but this is certainly a homecoming for A.J. Devonsa, and it comes on a huge platform, obviously playing a UConn team that has won 2 of the last 3 national championships. I'll tell you what, A.J. did something similar to this a year ago when he was a senior at Utah Prep. He came home and played Nate Ament, now a freshman at Tennessee, in a one-on-one battle. And truthfully, I was at that game. I didn't think A.J. was at his best. So this is going to be an even bigger spotlight, and we'll see what he's able to do, because BYU, especially in light and recent circumstances, is going to need him to deliver on that stage if they hope to beat UConn on Saturday night.
You spoke of recent circumstances, as UConn most likely won't have to face BYU starter Kennard Davis Jr., who was arrested Thursday on suspicion of DUI. How major of a loss would this be for the Cougars if they don't have him against UConn, and then perhaps for the rest of the season?
Yeah, it would be significant, to say the least. I think Davis has got two-way versatility that allows him to be a really ideal complementary piece to Devonsa. You know, he can take on the tougher defensive matchups. He's got flexibility to play at different spots on the floor offensively. Now, if there is a silver lining for BYU, it's the fact that Davis was actually held out of the last game with a little bit of a lingering injury. So they do have some game reps with him. But against a UConn team that retained the vast majority of their lineup and has something to prove this season. Talk about all the guys they brought back: Terrace Reed, Alex Caravan, Solo Ball, Jalen Stewart, Jaden Ross, adding Silas Demery. They too are playing without a starter, without Braylon Mullins. But this is a UConn team that is looking to make a statement early on in the season. BYU really needs to be at full speed. Remember, they've got this distraction. They've got the hurdle of this being a homecoming for AJ and all the eyeballs that go along with that. So there's a lot for them to have to balance here in this trip to Boston this weekend.
Speaking of being balanced, the Huskies have a really balanced attack. 4 of their 5 starters, Adam, average at least 10 points per game, headline by the big dog down low, as you mentioned, Terrace Reed Jr. and guard Solo Ball. So what are the keys for them to beat the Cougars?
Well, I really think this is a season where the theme is just retribution for UConn. Talked about all those guys they have coming back, and the reality is at this time last year, they were talking about a three-peat in stores. Clearly, that didn't come to fruition, but they still retained the vast majority of their roster, and they retained it in order to come back and to prove all the critics wrong. And this was a team I got to see practice in August. They are really ahead of schedule, I think. They are connected. They're competitive. Dan Hurley has made it very clear that this team's identity will be much more defensive minded than last year. And I think that and what it does to their ability to get out and transition is just a huge variable, not just tomorrow against BYU, but long term. I'd go back to that Columbia game. They played a great first half when they were defending well, creating offense for their defense, playing with space in the open floor. But it starts with getting stops and getting on the glass. That was the Achilles heel for the team last year. It's something that Hurley has spoken very plainly about rectifying this year, and I think that is the key, as I said, tomorrow and moving forward.
Yeah, you know he does not want another repeat of that type of defensive effort like we saw last year. Now, number 3, UConn, they're set for another gauntlet in the non-conference area, looking at their next 8 games. You have 5 teams ranked in the top 25 who they want to bring down, including number 5 Arizona and the defending champs Florida, who knocked them out in the tournament last season. Now, you talked about retribution, Adam. How do you envision Dan Hurley's team handling all these teams that are ranked at the top of the schedule?
Yeah, that is an incredibly daunting non-conference schedule, but I think we have to acknowledge that Hurley and his staff had some foresight here, right? I mean, the Big East, I understand we're only a week into the season, but the Big East has not fared well in their non-conference schedule. And when it comes to seeding, which is something Hurley's talked about in regards to last year's NCAA tournament, remember, they ran into Florida in the second round and they almost won that game. If it weren't for some Walter Clayton heroics in the second round of the NCAA tournament, UConn would have gone to a Sweet 16 and we would have had a different national champion. UConn, if they have a better non-conference schedule this year, puts themselves in a position to get a better seed. Again, Hurley's talked about the importance of that. So I think they're willing to take on all customers. And this is also a team historically that has done really, really well in non-conference scenarios when we're talking about games that are not back-to-back. Notice they're not playing any exempt events this fall. These are all standalone games where they have multiple days to prepare for each opponent. Historically, that's a setting in which they've thrived in.
Yeah, it's a lot different when you have to play like top 5 teams in back-to-back days as opposed to, all right, we've got a few days to rest up, watch some film, and get ready for this team. Adam Finkelstein, we always appreciate the insight, man. Take care. And Wednesday on CBS Sports Network, it's the season's first matchup of the Philadelphia Big Five as Villanova taking on LaSalle. Tip-off is set for 7 p.m. Eastern. Highlights and reaction are always right here on CBS Sports HQ.